Thank you so much for joining me for our Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today we want to get you fired up about your mental health. Mental illness is a serious topic, but it doesn't have to be something that you're afraid to talk about. We can still have conversation and be enlightened, inspired, and empowered. My guest today is Kay Kinsley Adams, and we're talking about her book, Blemished But Not Broken. So you know what I'm going to tell you to do. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Kay. Thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today.
Good morning, Dr. Angela. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to sharing information about my book with you.
Absolutely, and I cannot wait to talk about that. And again, I think folks are going to be really, really excited. Now, as is custom here on the show, we take a few minutes to, of course, introduce you to those few people out there that may be unfamiliar with you or with your work. So I have to ask you, first and foremost, what makes you you? What makes you the woman that you are today?
Well, Dr. Angela, I am currently married to a wonderful husband of 25 years, and I reside in Estero, Florida, where I enjoy an active life in the Sunshine State. I like to travel, and I love fitness-related activities, and I've had a very different type of career path where I've been a school teacher. I've worked for a mutual fund company, and I've worked with senior citizens in the healthcare industry, and currently I am a director of membership at a country club, which I love very much. And I wrote my book to help other people with the challenges of growing up with a mentally ill parent in order to share my story with others.
Mm-hmm. Now, being an author, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or did you find that that was just the next thing along your life path?
I actually always wanted to be an author. I was a bookworm as a child. I was always reading every book that I could actually get my hands on, and because of the things that happened in my childhood and some of the life experiences, I was always kind of journaling a little bit and trying to express myself through written word. And I always knew that I was someday going to write a book. I guess I just always wanted to be an author.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you know, I've found that many of the authors who say that they journaled as young people or as teens, you're right. They say that deep down inside, I guess, I knew this was always going to happen, even though it wasn't in my consciousness. I've always done something like this along the way, and it totally makes sense. Now, the title of your book, Blemished But Not Broken, how did you come about such a title?
Well, Dr. Angela, that's actually a very interesting story. I was kind of disheartened with a job that I had, and I had walked into a mystic fair that was taking place in the community in which I lived, and I walked in, and it was there that I met an astrologer, and he was also a palm reader. And he looked at my hand, and on my hand, he pointed out to me a blemish. And it was just a dark little spot that I never really noticed before. And the other thing that he said to me was the first thing, actually. He said, "You have not written your book yet." And I was taken back by those words because I thought, how did he know that I had wanted to write a book and had never written it? And he said, you need to write your book as you need to fulfill your life purpose. And so to make a long story short, he told me how to write the book and that I needed to speak it first and that I was going to be able to help other people. So ironically, I ended up losing my job and I had the time and the inclination to write the book. And one day I was sitting at my desk and on my desk I had a stone heart. And the stone heart had lots of lines and blemishes or wounds, so to speak. And I was looking at that and I was looking at my hand and then I noticed the little mark that he had pointed out. And I thought to myself, well, we are all blemished. We all have blemishes. And then I looked back at the stone and it was all in one piece. And I thought, we might be blemished, but we're not broken. And that's how the title of my book came about.
Oh, I love that story. Oh, I love it. That is great. And that's the reason why I asked, how did you come about the title? And I know that my listeners are always like, yeah, she does. She asks that of everyone, because sometimes you're going to have this amazing story that goes along with the title, and you go, how could you not have named it that? That is so profound. And you're right. Every one of us has a blemish, but it doesn't mean that we have to be broken. I love that. Now, for so many people, they come on and they talk about mental illness in one way or another, be it that they are, a clinician in some way, or they personally have dealt with it, or someone in their family deals with it. So my next question is kind of in the vein of the person who says, yeah, but, okay. So here's the question. What makes your book different, or what makes your book unique than some of the other books out there that also discuss dealing with mental illness?
Okay. Well, that's a great question, Dr. Angela. I feel that my book is a little bit different in the fact that it's written from a different perspective. A lot of the books are written by parents that have children that have mental illness. And I wrote my book from the perspective of having a parent that had a mental illness. And it wasn't a medical perspective. It's written about the daily trials and tribulations, as well as how it not only affected my relationship with my mother, who was the one that was mentally ill, but also how it affected my brothers and my sister and my own personal relationships on a romantic level, in my life. And so I felt that it was a little bit different. And I was actually told that by the National Association of Mental Illness, that they said it was unique in that way.
I like that. Thank you for sharing. Now, what type of mental illness did your mother suffer from, and did you or your family keep your mother's mental illness as a family secret? I know that for many families, it's simply not discussed. It may be known, but no one speaks openly about it. So how did your family deal with that?
Well, my mother had a terrible mental illness. It was paranoid schizophrenia. And so she felt that people were talking about her, that they were, when we would be out somewhere, she wouldn't want to go into a store because she felt that somebody in there was talking about her, or that my father was trying to kill her. And so she, had a lot of paranoid thoughts. And then on the other part of it, the schizophrenia, she, her emotions were kind of flat, where you didn't know what to expect. She was kind of unpredictable in the way that she would behave. And we grew up in a very small town where everybody knew each other. And so it was a family secret. And, this was many years ago. I'm currently in my 60s. So we're talking, that this happened, when I was in the 7th grade is when she originally got her diagnosis. So at that time, there was a fear of being ridiculous, having people make fun of you and your family. And I was embarrassed to have other people come over to our house because I didn't know what my mother was going to do, or what she was going to say, or how she was going to behave. And my father was very protective of our family. He didn't really want other people to know about her illness, and but she would ultimately do things that other people would eventually find out about her illness and the things that we were going through as a family.
Of course, and I can understand, and I feel like there's someone nodding their head right now, saying, "Yeah, it's not how it is now." I think now people are a little bit more accepting, not as accepting as they could be, but progress has been made. But especially during the time period when we were children, people were not accepting of mental illness, and it was a time of ridicule for not only the person suffering, but for their family as well. If we look over even how many cultures have dealt with it, they feel that that's a curse. Like, what did this person do to end up out of their mind? So it definitely was a hard time. I can imagine as a little girl dealing with that. Now, over time, dealing with just the different ways in which you were able to view your mother, grow to love her, and deal with her. How has your relationship grown or changed over the years with your mother and your father, from being a little girl dealing with this to being an adult?
Well, it's been an interesting period of time with my mother. As a young child, I had something traumatic happen to me as maybe a result of her illness or maybe not. But I was physically, sexually abused, raped by an older neighbor boy, and my sister and my brother were onlookers of what had happened. And my mother had actually, my younger sister had went to get my mother. And when she came into the chicken coop where this took place, she, screamed that they had damaged me for life, that no man would ever want me as a result of this. And that was the first time that my mother had shown any emotion to me. She took me in her arms that day and hugged me and soothed me. And it was after that her relationship changed. At the same time, she had lost a sister. I didn't write about that in my book, but she had lost one of her sisters, and she had a very difficult time with that, and also, what had occurred to me. And so our relationship changed over the years, and it was more like myself and my sister, who was almost a twin. She was 11 months younger than myself. We were basically her caregivers. We were always caring for her and looking after her rather than the other way around. And then I did not write this book until my mother was near passing. She passed at the age of 92, and I didn't really want to write about it because I didn't want to hurt her in any way. And so I released the book just before she passed. So I don't think she ever knew that I I wrote about our family and our story. And, I knew that she had an illness, and it was something that you couldn't see. And, when somebody has like a physical illness like cancer, you can tell that they're usually undergoing some sort of sickness because of the way that they appear. But with mental illness, it's something that you can't see. And I developed a great empathy and understanding of people as a result of her illness. And, it changed me a lot through the years to see what she was going through and what our family was going through.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that really does make a difference, is that when we learn to be empathetic to those that are around us, it makes us better people, because we may not want to wear their shoes, for a long period of time, but it does help us understand the shoes in which they walk. So I love that. Thank you so much for that reminder. Okay, it is time for us to go to break. And before we do that, could you remind everyone, please, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
Well, you can find a copy of my book, Blemished But Not Broken, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and other major booksellers in the U.S. and internationally. And you can keep on contact with me on Facebook at K. Kinsley Adams.
I love it. All righty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. You know what we like to do here. We want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you. My guest today is Kay Kinsley Adams, and we're talking about her book, Blemished But Not Broken. I love the title of that book, and she made such a profound statement. Sure, we all have blemishes. There's all a little something there, right? But it doesn't mean that we have to consider ourselves broken. I love it. Now, Kay, my next question to you is dealing with that exact thing, that being blemished. So many times, and especially in one's culture, we like to label people. We like to be able to fit people into the peg in which we think that they should go. Why do you consider yourself not blemished, though that's the word that's used in the title? Why does that not apply?
Well, like you said, I think we all feel at times that we are blemished. And I've certainly, like most people, have had struggles in life. And I feel that it's just in how that you deal with them. And, having been through a lot of life experiences, I feel that it's the way that you handle it. And you're going to, as an older person, as I've progressed through life and been through a lot, I realized that you're going to have days where it's going to be sunny and there's going to be days that are rainy. But in between the sun and the rain, there is going to be a rainbow. And you just always have to keep in mind that sometimes things are going to appear dark and gloomy, but it's how you handle it. And I made a mistake early in my life where I didn't open up to tell other people about my problems, and I held everything inside. I, had a secret about being sexually abused and a mother that was mentally ill, and I didn't talk about it, and I held that all in. And, I wished I would have said to someone, look, this is what happened to me, but, I had a lot of resilience and a lot of strength, and I kept my faith and just moved on. And so I feel that, even though I'm blemished, I'm not broken.
Absolutely. And, again, I can feel someone nodding their head again, just saying, yeah, just because I've been through a little something, it doesn't mean that I still can't shine brightly, that I still am not presenting my best to you, because everyone has a something. I love it. I love it. Now, the other part of that, but not broken, why do you think of yourself as not broken after the circumstances? That was something that your mother sounded as though she was concerned about, that someone would consider you to be broken or damaged in some way. Why did you choose to think the opposite?
Right. Well, there's people that always say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. You probably maybe have heard that somewhere along the way. And I always worried that because my mother had a mental illness that, that I was going to be the same way. And my sister was concerned about that as well, that it was possibly in our family genes. And I worried that people would make fun of us again because of the situation that we had with my mother. And I just learned through life and having a strong father who really instilled great values, Christian values in his children, and really was the strong parent, serving both as a father and a mother in a lot of respects, getting us up to, get off to school and attending our functions at school, which our mother never came to, and just carrying that family secret. But he did help us to be resilient and teach us to have courage and to be strong, and always to do your best regardless, and to keep our faith, and to keep moving forward. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that I had that other part of my parenting that was as a great guide to get me through these difficulties. And it was a great learning lesson, and it taught me that no matter what, just to keep on plodding through. I mean, there have been times in my life where, I've been just depressed and felt like, the sun wasn't going to ever shine again. But that's not true. The next day can be a lot better day than the day before. I always just try to keep that in mind, that, maybe today's not so great, but tomorrow is going to look different. And you're not alone. There are a lot of other people that are going through different types of things, different than maybe what you're going through.
You are so right. I know that was one of the things that I used to tell my kids growing up. When you're standing in line at a particular store and you kind of see someone get a little bit upset, or it seems like they're easily angered in that moment, and their reaction wasn't called for necessarily. I say, you never know what someone is going through. So learning to kind of be patient with people and not assuming that they're attacking you or that you're the cause of it. Just take a moment to kind of just step back and help that person breathe. You never know how you can change a situation simply by doing that. But I think that's because I'm a counselor. It's trying to be empathetic towards others and letting them know that there can be a safe place for people to just talk and to speak and to share their thoughts and stuff. So you're right about that. I love it. Now, was there a particular prompting, and I love that you were so respectful of your mother, to wait until she would not be embarrassed or put unduly in the spotlight with your book. But was there a particular moment that really prompted you to say, well, now is the time that I can start working on this book with an expectancy of this book will be out within, X amount of time?
Yeah. Well, actually, as I shared earlier, the visit to the astrologer or the palmist, when I've always been kind of a seeker, and I was seeking answers because I had been in a situation that I was trying to get answers to in regards to my employment. That was why I had gone there in the first place. And ironically, he had really encouraged me to write the book, and said to me that it was going to be very helpful to other people, but it was also going to be helpful to myself. So he initially prompted me to write the book, and he told me how to do it. He said, you need to speak it first, and you need to speak from your heart. And so he said, what you need to do is just take off all of your jewelry and get in comfortable clothing, and to sit and to get in the right frame of mind. So usually what I do is I meditate and I pray before I write so that I'll be able to speak from my heart. And he said, you just need to tell your story from your heart. And so he gave me the encouragement and the confidence to be able to tell my story, because I wanted to help other people. Because I knew that mental illness is something that people do sweep under the carpet, and it's not something that they like to talk about. And so I felt that my story was going to be able to help other people. So I finally had the time and, like I said, the inclination to write the story. So I got a little recorder and started to record what I wanted to say, and then I found that as I was recording, it was getting easier and easier for me to write. Because a lot of times I had started to write my story before meeting him, and I would just crumble it up and throw it in the waste paper can and thought, who would believe this anyhow? Or, why should I do this? And so it all turned out for the best, because it was really quite healing for me. And it just really brought to light a lot of things for me. I knew that I had a lot of baggage that I was carrying from all of the things that occurred in my life, and so it helped me to release that, and it really lifted a big burden off my shoulders, and it was very, very healing.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. And it is really fascinating at how much stuff people carry around with them. I'm not talking about, that physical backpack because you're a commuter. I mean, just those things that perhaps you're keeping a family secret, or you saw something as a child and you've never shared it with anyone that you saw, that particular wrongdoing. It is, the more we sit down and talk to people, we do understand that everyone is kind of dealing with a something, be it that it's low self-esteem or uncertainty or anxiety, just general anxiety for the future, not knowing which way to go. Everyone is going through a something. So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, it is time for us, Kay, to go to break. But before we do, can you please remind everyone, what is the title of your book? Where can we get a copy? And how do we stay in contact with you?
You can get a copy of Blemished But Not Broken at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, both U.S. and internationally. And you can connect with me on Facebook at Kay Kinsley Adams.
Alrighty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. As you know, I am speaking with author Kay Kinsley Adams today about her book, Blemished But Not Broken. And I love the title of that book. Okay, my next question for you is, and I want to kind of double back just a little bit on something that you mentioned earlier, and that is, how did your mother's illness affect your romantic relationships? You know, she put some words out there, or something that she feared may happen. She kind of put that out there in the universe, if you will. How did that actually end up affecting you?
Okay. Well, as you can imagine, having a mother that was mentally ill, I was a little bit hesitant to bring my romantic interest to my home, but I went through a lot in regards to actually finding my husband, so to speak. I had a lot of issues in regards to relationships, and a lot of it stemmed from the way that I was raised. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence, and my mother really didn't, teach me a lot about men and what to expect in a relationship, or, just even general grooming. She didn't really want me to shave my legs or wear makeup and things like that at an early age. But I, as a result, did not earlier in my 20s have a lot of discretion in the type of men that I dated. I let them pick me. I didn't pick the men that I dated. So as a result, I would get into relationships with men that were emotionally not available. They weren't men that I thought that they cared about me, and I wanted them to care about me, but they didn't care about me in the way that I wanted them to. So I had a lot to learn about men and relationships, and my very first real relationship that I was involved in was with a man that I ended up getting pregnant, and ended up having a miscarriage as a result. But he didn't want to marry me, and he didn't want to have the baby, and I was afraid of commitment myself, and so I would make wrong choices. So after a number of unhealthy relationships, I finally just got so disgusted, and I decided I didn't want to be treated that way. I didn't want to be treated without respect, and so I got very clear on the type of man that I wanted, and I tried to visualize the person that I wanted in my life. And I had actually called up my parents and told them, after one terrible romantic relationship, and I sat them down, took them out to dinner, and told them that I was never getting married, I was never having children, and I'm going to remain single the rest of my life. And it wasn't until after that I let it all go and just moved on. Almost 2 months later, I was introducing them to the man that I was going to marry. So it was just really quite ironic how it all happened.
Wow.
And I was in my mid-30s at that point in time. And I just had a lot of trouble figuring things out in regards to romance. And I relate that back to, having a mother that was not emotionally available. And so that did have an effect on me. And I finally figured things out, and I ended up marrying a wonderful man who was a lot like my father, actually, very supportive and loving and caring. And we've been married now for over 25 years. But,
awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think you're speaking to so many people out there, because one nugget that you said is that you wanted to pick him instead of them picking you. And I think that for so many women, we still kind of allow that to happen because there is something there that we haven't turned on in ourselves yet. There's something that we're dealing with. And the guy who isn't the most appropriate for us ends up choosing us as opposed to us saying, nope, not that one, not that one, not that one. Ah, there he is, that one there. So many times we're great at picking the great tomatoes or avocados or, the perfect melon. But for so many people, we don't do the same thing when it comes to the people that we are choosing to be in a relationship with. And I know that there's some woman raising her hand going, yep, that's me. I can pick a melon, but can't pick a man. So you're right. That is so important that we kind of flip that way of thinking. Thank you for putting that out there. And,
sure, my pleasure.
Yeah, and then you talk about a mother that wasn't emotionally available for you. I'm pretty sure there's someone out there going, right, at least your mother, has schizophrenia to deal with. My mother, there's nothing wrong with her. She's just not emotionally available for me. And she did not give me that mother-daughter relationship to help me become the woman that I needed to be. So you're really talking to a lot of ladies out there today, and they're definitely going, yep, need to get this book, need to pick it up, and it can help me grow and learn. Now, my last question for you, and I've definitely enjoyed my time with you, but I want to make sure that I ask you this, and that is, what was your process for getting to that better place in your life and healing from everything that has happened, but knowing that you are, as your book says, you are not broken through everything that has gone on?
Well, as I mentioned, writing the book actually was very healing, just putting everything down on paper and looking at it in black and white and thinking, wow, I really have been through a lot in my life, and, I was able to overcome my struggles. And there were times in my life where, no, it certainly was not easy. And I really had to pull myself up out of despair. And actually, when I released the book, I was so filled with anxiety that I was like, oh, my goodness, I put all of this out into the world. And I had like an anxiety attack. And then finally somebody read the book and told me how much they loved it and that they could relate to it. So then it was like a big relief. But writing it was the best therapy. But there are other things that I do to keep myself positive, and I like to meditate and pray and be physically active. And if I find myself to be feeling down or something, I take a walk. And I think a lot of people, especially now with the pandemic and all the things that are happening in the world, that you just need to find a release and not to. Yeah. You don't have to carry the world on your shoulders. I just came to realize that I don't have to carry the world on my shoulders. I need to have self-care and be kind to other people and do the best that I can. And that's really, you have to keep yourself mentally, spiritually healthy, physically as well. And you do everything that you can to whatever it takes for you. And you have to find that, what gives you the greatest peace. And I feel like I've finally been able to find peace. And I think a lot of people are searching for that. And so you just kind of have to figure out what that is for you.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you said that sometimes you go for a walk. I just did an event, and that was one of the things that I suggested that every woman does every day. and it's so funny because I said we need to meditate or pray, or breathe, whatever language you use according to your belief system. But it's like we have to meditate, we have to pray, we have to learn to just connect with breath and take a moment to step away from everything that's going on, and to make sure that we walk every day. Not that, I'm going to be a speed walker and I'm entering into the next marathon. Not that, but just, take that time. And from a health perspective, we're sure supposed to walk 20 minutes a day. But I said, even if you could just take 10 minutes in the morning to just go for a walk and just kind of prepare yourself for your day, or take 10 minutes at the end of the day and have a walk of gratitude and just thankful for everything that has gone on, those positive moments. Because the negative stuff is going to come. We don't have to go looking for that. That's definitely going to show up, But it's like if we do those things, those are such beautiful ways of keeping us grounded and keeping us connected with who we know that we can be, our higher selves, or most connected with God, or most connected with spirit. Again, however you say that in your culture, but it is such a beautiful thing. So I tell you what, Miss K. Kinsley Adams, you have definitely enlightened, inspired, and empowered our listeners today. And I feel that anyone who picks up a copy of your book, Blemished But Not Broken, will also be reminded of who they are and be able to walk with that light. Thank you again so much for coming on and sharing with us today and spending some time. But before I let you go, can you remind everyone again, where can we get a copy of your book? And for those who want to reach out to you, how do they stay in contact with you?
Thank you, Dr. Angela. I've enjoyed being on your show. You can get a copy of Blemished But Not Broken at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and both U.S. and internationally. And you can also connect with me, K. Kinsley Adams, on Facebook. And thank you once again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for being on as well. And listeners, I always thank you for spending time with us as well. You could have been anywhere, but you chose to spend it here with us. And thank you. We definitely appreciate your tuning in and spending time with us. We hope that we have enlightened, inspired, and empowered you. But as always, may the Lord continue to shine his face upon you. May you receive his grace and his mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember, you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.